How many women have you been with since you've been divorced?
No, you know.
Lionel and Nicole Richie seem to have a really strong father-daughter relationship, but not many people know that Lionel actually only adopted Nicole when she was 9 years old. And what's even crazier is that he was apparently friends with her birth parents. And you guys will never believe the crazy story of what went down with the adoption. Lionel wasn't there for Nicole during her birth, and he also wasn't there for the first 2 years of her life. But once he got introduced to her, everything changed. Nicole Richie, or should I say Nicole Camille Escovedo, was born to Karen Moss and Peter Michael Escovedo. Karen and Peter worked in the music industry, and as luck would have it, they ran in the exact same circle as Lionel. Life wasn't perfect for them, but at least they were comfortable. But then all of that came crashing down when Nicole turned 2. Suddenly, Karen and Peter started having relationship issues, and from that, they also started having financial issues. But none of that really made a difference until the day Lionel met Nicole for the very first time. Lionel met Nicole during a Prince concert. She was actually on stage playing the trombone, and it didn't really take long for Lionel to learn about Karen and Peter's financial situation. Then he and his first wife Brenda Harvey offered to help Karen and Peter. Apparently, the initial agreement was that Lionel and Brenda would become some sort of legal guardians for Nicole. They were really only supposed to help Karen and Peter give her financial stability. There wasn't supposed to be any more to it. But not everything always goes according to plan, but with time, Lionel and Brenda's world ended up changing forever. According to Lionel, he grew more fond of Nicole each time he saw her. If there was one thing he looked forward to every time he returned from tour, it was seeing Nicole. You might think this was a good thing in a way, but for Lionel, it troubled him a lot. It troubled him so much because it was obvious to everyone, even Karen and Peter, that Nicole wasn't okay. It was obvious that Nicole had some major abandonment issues at just 9 years old, and they were taking a huge toll on her. This was when Lionel decided to make a decision that would change his life forever. Lionel saw himself promising Nicole that he would never leave her as others did. In other words, he would never leave her as her parents had left her. But it wasn't just about Lionel never leaving Nicole. He also wanted to find something for himself that he could fall in love with. He wanted something in his life that would never leave him too. And he found that something when he decided to adopt Nicole. Not only did he want to give Nicole the security and love that she couldn't get from her birth parents, but he also wanted to make her family and every other person that had ever rejected her wish that they'd never done something like that. In his words, he wanted to make everyone in Nicole's family wish that they actually had a chance to get her back, a chance that they knew pretty well they'd never get. In an interview that Lionel did with People magazine, he explained that Nicole was actually a godsend. He called her the little girl who just needed a shot, and even though at first it seemed like he was the one who was helping Nicole, over the past couple of years, she ended up helping him in more ways than one, starting with the divorce from Brenda. Not too long after Lionel adopted Nicole, he and his first wife Brenda split up, and then they divorced in 1993. Apparently, this was because Brenda had caught Lionel with Diane Alexander, and the same woman he ended up marrying just 3 years after finalizing his divorce from Brenda. During this rough patch in Lionel's life, he explained that Nicole was the only thing that really kept him grounded. He and Brenda rarely agreed on anything, but the one thing they could both always agree on was Nicole. So her being with him helped him in more ways than one. Since Lionel adopted Nicole, she's gone on to become a successful fashion designer, author, actress, and TV personality. Most people would say that if Lionel and Brenda didn't come into the picture, this would have never been possible for her. After getting adopted by Lionel, her life really turned around for the better, but deep down, she still had a lot of demons that she was fighting. She still had struggles that no one else saw, not even Lionel. An adoption process obviously comes with a whole baggage of emotions. There's a lot of learning and trusting you have to do, mainly with the people who are adopting you. That's already pretty difficult, but Nicole's case was much harder because not only was she trying to get used to Lionel and Brenda and trust them, but she was also dealing with the fact that her birth parents didn't want her. She was dealing with feeling abandoned by them, and for the longest time, this wasn't an easy feeling for her to shake off. If anything, she just kept holding it against them. The issue was that when Nicole was adopted by Lionel, she was 9 years old already, which means that she was more than old enough to remember her birth parents and realize what was going on around her. And the knowledge that came with her age was both a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, she understood what it meant for Lionel to want to have her as his first child, but on the other hand, she was also old enough to realize that Lionel was only able to adopt her because her parents didn't want her. To say that this hurt her would be a huge understatement, and this is probably why she held such a huge grudge against both her birth parents. And even though her birth mother Karen still stuck around after Nicole was adopted, this didn't change the way that Nicole felt. She was obviously dealing with a lot of really difficult emotions. And because of this, she started acting out in dangerous ways. At that point, she would do pretty much anything to help herself not feel the way that she felt. This was why she started taking legal substances. And in 2003, she got arrested because of her involvement in all of that. Luckily, it didn't take her long to realize that she needed help to overcome her substance issues. After receiving treatment for it, she actually met her future husband. And according to Nicole, it was when she found out that she was pregnant that she knew she had to make some serious changes in her life, because now she wasn't just responsible for herself, but she was also responsible for another person. Becoming a mom changed a lot about Nicole. According to her, pregnancy helped her bond with her birth mother Karen, who she was never close with in the first place. Apparently, her pregnancy made her realize that she didn't want to keep resenting her birth parents. If anything, it just really made her realize that she actually wanted them in her life, and the pregnancy also brought her even closer to Lionel. It's clear that Nicole's life has been filled with its own share of ups and downs, but at the end of the day, it all worked out pretty well for her. Her and Lionel's relationship is actually really sweet, and I honestly couldn't be happier for her. But what do you guys think? Did you know that Nicole was adopted? And what do you think about her and Lionel's relationship? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below.